So use well-established, because then you can be quite sure, and typically they already will have this standardized data process agreement that they will hand you, but be careful.
Are you responsible for the GDPR? That could cost you hefty fines if you do not comply with the GDPR. And that's why we have in this masterclass to make sure that you know what it's all about. Because it can cost you more than hefty fines. It can also make you get bad reputation if you do not follow the GDPR. Kat, you're here with us today in this Key Solutions studio.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for having us here. So let's start. And also thank you, Key Solutions, for having us today. Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Yes.
So we talked about what is personal data in the first episode.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about who is responsible for that processing. And processing of personal data was any type of usage of that information. Storing, gathering, if you send an email, if you send marketing, if you save it in any type, way, shape or form, really.
Sounds like a really big thing to
or
do.
if you sell it to somebody, which is a big thing, of course, in particular, if you're a startup in some shape.
So first of all, where do we start?
Yeah. So GDPR has 3 players, really. Number 1 was you, the data subject, the one that the information concerns. That's a natural person. And then we have the data controller and the data processor. And the data controller, that's what we want to know if it is you. Because then you are responsible. You will be responsible for how you comply with GDPR, what type of data you're allowed to process, how it's allowed to be processed, how long you may keep it, making sure you have sufficient security, IT and other type of security around it. And you need to be the one responding and communicating with either the data subject in any cases where she wants to use her rights under GDPR. And if you're the data processor, you're the follower. You follow the instructions of the controller. So you also have a responsibility to make sure that you only comply with how it's processed, keeping it sure, security, etc. And also making sure you do not misuse it in any other way. But your responsibility is less. So controller number 1. Let's break it down.
Yes.
Ida, you have a pizzeria.
I have a pizzeria.
Yes. Then you want to sell pizza to your customers, right?
Yep.
And then you use an app. I'm the app developer. I have this app and I do home delivery. I take care of everything. So you decide what information you want and how you want to communicate. You talk to your customers. You direct them to me, to the app, advertising. Go here, you make sure you have the address where you're going to deliver it. You need to have payment information, all right, etc. So you will be the controller. It will be your customers. You decide what data you want to gather and why, how it's going to be used. Then I'm the processor because I say, okay, you need this. You want me to help you with a payment transaction. You want me to help you with the delivery and the orders coming in. So quite simple. So if we jump on that checklist, I would say that number 1 will again be just checking, are you established in the EU? If yes, GDPR. If no, do you offer your services or goods or in any other way, shape or form, come and even touch data, personal data, that relates to a data subject within the EU or EES, then GDPR apply. It can also be if you're a processor just storing data from a EU entity that is regulated under GDPR. So that's number 1. And number 2, the test will be, are you the one deciding what data to process, how it's going to be processed, the purpose of using it, then you're the controller. If you're the one saying, okay, I'll take care of this, no problem, Like if you also in your pizzeria, you might use Google Docs. You might make a list of all of your employees or customers that you want to send special offers. Then you're using a cloud service, a SaaS solution. They're the processor. Again, you're the controller.
And then I have the responsibility.
The majority of the responsibility, including ensuring that any processor that you're using, that you have an agreement, a data processing agreement with them, and that they are GDPR compliant. So you need to be mindful who you use as a service provider.
Because I will be responsible at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, exactly. So use well-established, because then you can be quite sure, and typically they already will have this standardized data process agreement that they will hand you, so you don't have to think about it if you're a small business owner as much, but be careful. But that's the test, and to add a twist, it could be that if you're that pizzeria and I might be a bakery making breakfast, and you and I decide to collaborate and do some kind of, you buy a pizza and you get a breakfast all in one solution, and we sit down and we start attacking new customers or something. Then in relation to that project, we might be seen as controllers, both of us.
So then you both have responsibility.
Yeah. Or imagine that you're a small tech developer and you start negotiations with this big marketing company. Then you might also end up that you're both controllers, because you both decide together what kind of data to use. It might not be that you were only assigned, do this because we want it. It might be more of a mutual, where you're on the same level.
Okay.
So that's really good to know that it can be two controllers.
But let's say I have a company when I'm alone and I handle all my businesses myself. Can I be both the controller and the processor?
Then you're the controller and you have no processor.
I have no processor then, but I'm still in 100% responsibility for what information is coming out. Okay.
But if you're a small tech company and you are a processor for somebody else, you might just help with marketing for this big company and you're super happy you got this big client and you take care of their events or something like that and get personal data. That doesn't mean that you cannot be a controller in relation to other data. Because what happens if you, within that scope, you employ me or you contract some other service provider to deliver something which entails personal data. And if you're the processor, in this case, and you feel like, oh, I want to use that other service provider, you're not allowed to transport that data as a processor without having been allowed by the controller. So if you're the processor and you want to transmit that data to somebody else, you need to make sure you are permitted.
Okay, that's really good to know.
Really good, because it easily happens. Because when you think about it, often we do use different external, in particular if we're a small business owner or a small startup. We use more other service providers than we would think often.
Yes, I mean, everything is digital. You use different things.
Exactly. Each time. And like we talked about in the first episode, personal data is so very broad.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to what you need to do with it now that we talked about like who's who and when do we even come into GDPR.
Exactly. But let's say that you have a company. Do you need to have a written down policy to make sure, I mean, if you get a controller or anything, or if someone asks, do you need to send out a policy? Is it good or is it required?
Absolutely. And the next episode, we'll talk about the 7 principles of GDPR, which the last one of those is accountability. And as a part of accountability, you need to document your processes, think it through, make sure you actually do the assessments, understanding what data am I gathering, what's the purpose of that data, what's the legal basis. We'll have an episode specifically with a checklist on that. So yes.
Perfect. Now you know what a controller is and what a processor is, and you also know what you're responsible for. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So for you businesses, keep on rock on, and now you know more about the GDPR and follow up for the upcoming episodes about it. And also thank you Key Solutions for having us today.
Hej då!
Hej då!